Tene tatari nga de ke E-Vam ki chuso ke tan nga de levares. Tango chushi gyungan del ngi tos di keze tos che tene chushi go tsukins.
So first I'll just say a few words. It's sort of, before beginning the teaching proper.
Ti ndi kangla tene ta kenamba de E-Vam chuso ke tene nga de shos kenamba ke tan wares. Ti ta gyunzen kangari to sana ngarangi de kusulla. Tene gyamkun talag rumbuche kongrang dungse rumbuche ke shalab redus. Tene dungse rumbuche tang kongna ban jewe kapsu tene kongla dorsum ki nyamlen tang tene ki tene ngarang suina tene kongna ba tene sung yu sares. Titi indu kongla kongrang ki dorsum ki nyamlen nang te nang yu sare. Ting maung lomba sola yang dorsum ki nyamlen te mara pelju ki charshi tindra yu yin sare te tene kutse ma tene te gongpa zone te sung yu ma chupa redu. Titi indu kongla ta dii ki chugyun ki tene dorsum tang tene dunjum ki tersari imba kanshik la tene lama doji simbi ki nyamlen chi ku du sa tene kong tuk gongwa nashin chi kiri kyan loma so kama zi yakpo re te tindre chi ma nyamlen chi kyu kyan namba ka tuk la tira xia ni nga la shok sung re dus.
So I've come here at the invitation of E-Vam Institute, this Dharma Center, and the reason that E-Vam invited me was because of the connection between Chalit Rinpoche and Dongse Chinli Nobu Rinpoche. So in the previous Kyabgyun Chalit Rinpoche spent time and received teachings from Dongse Chinli Nobu Rinpoche, who is also one of my gurus, and in particular received from him the ritual for Vajrasattva practice. And I'm told that he then taught this to his students and had the intention to spread and propagate the practice of this Vajrasattva ritual, which is a teaching from the Dujum Tesa lineage. And because then the students at E-Vam Institute, Chalit Rinpoche having passed away and not being physically present with us anymore, they wished, or rather he wished, to find a teacher who held this same lineage, the Dujum Tesa lineage, and the lineage and transmission for this specific Dujum Vajrasattva practice, so that you can continue to practice it, to spread it, and uphold it, which is a wonderful aspiration and a wonderful initiative on from your side. So that's why I was invited, and that is why I'm here.
Tene ngarang la cha shawayi na tene chugyu de tersarim bare tene dungserim buchi kongrang kundi ne dorsim go wang tene lamba tene chubi dorsim go wang chazang top song tene dorsim go la samna tene kama nani dorsim top song terma nani termzo nani tene tak dorsim go wang mongbo chingi shuwe yin wang shuwe zama sebeke tene wang go nga tsamaya tene dorsim ki sam lonsam tene dene nyen se tene cha tsangwa yabo chi kyal yus.
From my side, I am of the lineage of Dujum Tesa, that is my lineage. I also received all of the empowerments and transmissions of the Dujum Tesa from Dongse Chinli Nobu Rinpoche himself, so including the empowerment and transmission of the specific Vajrasattva practice you guys practice here. On top of that, I also received from him many other Vajrasattva transmissions and empowerments from the Kama and the Terma traditions and so on. Not only have I received those transmissions, but I also have been able to do retreat on those practices and to complete retreats on these various Vajrasattva practices and to fulfill the retreat requirements according to time, amount, and so on.
Tene dorsum ki sam lonsam dene lochigiring la dorsum ki sam dene 마세 버직라 ngara gyundu tanda dorsum gebi choga tende tungme katro sunu chuki choga dibati takbarashi nga tene ndong yus dorsum ngarang gi idam nang so chins.
So I completed a year-long retreat on Vajrasattva, just focused on Vajrasattva. And in addition to that, I do practice Vajrasattva, the concise liturgy, concise practice for Vajrasattva every day. That's one of my daily practices. So Vajrasattva is one of my main practices and main yidam deities.
Ini di indi kamatin tanda ngalang so chogi goni nayang kena batam chegi tersar ki tine nungse trainer ki tine loma tang lop chuki chogi ko ki ba tang Ande ngarang yang tene itam gu zo de dorsim chigiyo la nga tsam mayin bege dorsi semba sagin te tene shiwa shichu zangi chakdo nga chu zaki ga aso tamchiri te diyo yin diyo kang la tene ngarang so dunjurum buji song ana yin dati labna ya mungu tiba mungu re ra sari te yin diyo kang la per shidam tamchiri la di zo de tene dorsi semba yin re dorsi semba chupso na la tamchiri chupdo yin diyo tene di la diyan za chimbo re te yin diyo kang la kira naba tamchiri ya tene nganzo dang tumpuredo ngarangda tum kiranso dorsam la pe gawo dorsam ki chö duk dang tenzo la pe ngarangso interest degen te ngarang ina sambo tanga na kenzo tering la gyo nga dorsam ki samda lo guchu ngan do tenge lo guchu ngan dorsam ke sam logic de bai lo chu chi guchu mare hala nishu zong ngan ingire tene dorsam ki sam logic de jenya ba kya tanda ya tappa rashi gyundo tene dorsam ki nyaba denggo te indio kanga 드링야 기능 앨범 게대 dorsim go wang dwen se rimbu ya dorsim ge nyeba tanggo so tire ke maris marang gyundu te idam chigwe te indir kana kenam bala te wang dang nge de chega to de da ngana shu yuen den shu yo mare te ini kana yuen den yo batang jingarang gi to so chige ji ko to yo be te kenam wang dang te long da kan se da te chi dang te kerang so de program tibana shin chi ne te ngarang gi chashi chung shi so shu ins.
So in this light, then, we are connected by means of the Dujam Tessa lineage, right? So you are all students of the Dujam Tessa lineage that you received via Kyabkin Chalot Rinpoche by means of Dongse Chini Nobu Rinpoche, from whom I also received the lineage. And in addition to that, we are both practitioners of Vajrasattva, the deity Vajrasattva, right? You're practicing that, and me too, just as I explained. Vajrasattva is an incredibly precious deity to practice. Vajrasattva embodies all of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities. So in this sense, it's said that if you practice Vajrasattva and accomplish Vajrasattva, you thereby accomplish all Buddhas, all deities. So it's a very precious practice to engage in. So in these ways, we have this connection by means of the lineage and also our practice of Vajrasattva. And like I said, I have not just received the transmissions for this practice, but I've also engaged in the practice to its full extent in a retreat context. Like I said, I completed a year-long retreat on Vajrasattva, and that wasn't just recently. That was about 9 or 10 or maybe more years ago that I'd completed that retreat, and since then on a daily basis I've been practicing Vajrasattva until now. So I don't want you to think that it's only in response to the invitation, your invitation for me to come here and bestow Vajrasattva that I've been doing it every day. No, it's been for more than a decade or two or more that I've been practicing Vajrasattva. So I've come here at your invitation, your wonderful invitation, and I will do my best to, according to the program that we've set up, to share my transmissions and my knowledge with you. And I'm not only, we have arranged not just the Vajrasattva transmission, but also teachings on the 9 Yanas, which is what we are going to be looking at today. So today that is what we will start looking at, the 9 Yanas. So in the Tibetan tradition, or we could say it's more like in the Buddha Dharma tradition, we begin teachings and Dharma activities by going for refuge and generating bodhicitta, and then at the end we dedicate the merit, right? We have this kind of framework. So that being the case, I will begin now by chanting a supplication to Manjushri.
Lama dango mo jambi yang lan chan sa lo gangi lu tu tingi tindarangi danam dara dhalwe jingi dungwen jishan zi jangi ke tu karalak bam zang ganda tipe jonrar mari mantum dungali ke zirwe vendo so kun la puchi dar zang la chu chu yang ten son tu draje chongi mongi long di ki cha tu tu mari mantul dungali ye ku jingi chon zi ra ten nam do ne da jang sa chu dar zang yan ten lu zo ke zi tiwe ku chu cha chu dan chu yin gen Dalu mansini jambi yang la rabdu Omara bazana de Omara bazana de Omara bazana de Omara bazana Omara bazana de Zenden ki gen kira bawa zari ki dalu ki momo bara do nega tang ten chu shung do kwa ilo jo pa pe na wa ki do Andamling zevi gen ru jongi tang tu chi long do nyen pe tu nga yang na te tang pre pe pe tu yi ten kurti shukur to lo long jim ba tu me o dre jaw la kwe cha anta chidara kye pe se wa shiwa la na dr chupi wang chuk Sanwa pacha dunga rang rungan jingme chuki wang pura kwe cha anta ridong jambali chunu chan la pi gombi long ne po pi dara kye to long to chun sa kyang su nga wang me hom jamyang nam kya la sarwa de jingme kingye ma yo wang chuk cha kya ten tong ha yang to sarwa nyi shiru tenpe nye ma chuki je Palden lama chola sarwa de ngon sering zene den dor jizar ma on de jing me pa de ya ta ta penchung kya ta choban jitri shi do je la ge jan za shin je kun jing le chen ma yi sa long song che sang yi shi ki me go pe ma chuin kyap dar ngor ji ba song me lama chola ge za be ma me ta song chen tre ko ngor me so chan tong a ge Misi popi teranganda vise sume palden lamar ke chanda sume palden lamar ke chanda nambar me to ishe kunga wanjira ingi duja giro durji lungi rangwa jasam we chinle nirwe shabla ke chanda shomen chigi ingi padana jasam sanji kunji ngo ira sum shuku ngondu tonzebe Savi lami shabla ke chanda saji buji chuji me to changre rablung shingin de gemba de sanji shingda mikde parwa yindu kanam da janda jibur Edam Guru Radna Mandala Puja Migang Samanda Sabarama Samaya Niji Mindra Sambonde Balve Chanchu Langa Parchit Mijun Chetusum Triche Kumbatova Tiba Mindra Jivara Mination Amka Danya Bendo Nandro Semje Namki Sambada Loe Cheta Chita Chitang Teba Chuki Ngolo Gordo Manjundrawa namki tatanya be semchen tapje namki la namme bayang tapur zopi sangi ye kopong bocha chine kyang koparcha de ton do chu samon de se na kyang yam so long gi go nyem bitene kulon number tapi ko ne tene sempre shoes
Please now generate the heart of awakening bodhicitta, the supreme motivation, which is to think, I will establish all mother sentient beings who are limitless in number as the expanse of space in the at the state of supreme unsurpassable enlightenment, and in order to be able to do that, I will now engage in the sublime Dharma.
Tindi di kanata chu kandi jinyen bayi nanda tene kulong dang kunju sekin peke chembore tamashi kyang lama sambu gulama indi kanla ten kyang so tamche la ti yabo towe kire te chu shiwe ne kapsu kulong de rang chiku sangi ko bang bu chu tokyu dang ne gab ge chige sem kibo dang de ho kunju chiku sambo dang na Nindi chödi nabar taba yungo mare, jikten pe chödi bu chato re, chö yagduk sagen dabu dang tsuzo tamche rangi semki kulong kebar jen doshawa indu, tayi bi semchen tamche pama magirwa jikya me, pama girwa dinchimbo shadayi, teta tamche sangi kubang bu chingo barcha, nyepe ki kulong. Di tine kulong nabar te tine chanchuk ki sem sagen di tine chö shuwi ne kapso yang gogore la, ya chasarwi ne kapso yang gogore, chokan dönbi kapso yang gogore, Gomjavi ne kapso tang jiye na latana samba chanchu bisam ji simbati ne tangsho ti ke chambres
Our motivation and our conduct are extremely important. No doubt you're all aware of this because you're all students of a genuine guru, excellent gurus. But to repeat, our motivation is extremely important because it's our motivation that kind of sets the direction or the course for our actions. If we engage in, say, listen to a Dharma teaching just with short-term, temporary goals, like gaining temporary happiness, temporary peace of mind, mundane benefits like that, then the whole activity will just become mundane and worldly, no more than that. that being the case, it's really important that at the outset of listening to a teaching, but likewise, not just when listening to teachings, when engaging in any Dharma practice, whether, say, you're making prostrations, say you're meditating, say you're making circumambulations, whatever, it's so vital to precede that with bodhicitta, the correct motivation. This means that we think sentient beings are limitless in number, and all of these sentient beings have at some point been my mother. They've shown me extraordinary kindness. And to repay that kindness, I will establish all of them at the state of perfect enlightenment, free of suffering. In order to be able to do that, I will now engage in this Dharma practice or study or whatever it might be. Yes.
Oh yeah, that the kulong the gundu song begone the kunju second tene chu song in the kauso tene ni to mayimba chu shu sagala mala ma biyo mamba tene ngaranzo dinala donala kansong de lekpar yila song la ngi kyola sheto sendona to lekpar yila song se de kala tene chu shebi na kauso ya kulong number ta begone yen ju dedang de chala tene ngaranzo na ni to wala so watang tene kecha sheba la sawa tang, tene sem yin wa la sawa tang, ta jing gewa shena nyo gi kyun san chima tu min zimba nga la sawa, pe dema shibchu shetang she gyo re, te dirang nima mo wundur, tan do chi na mana sem ma yang wa chik tang, amcho ya ku nyen gyo tang, kecha ma sheba tang, mwabil la sawa, tene nana tene di jindar mita ki tene, chik tang wa la sawa, len sawa, tene ma chiba, chuzu ki nangda ya, jine ridak ki dala nyenba na shin sepe, amcho simbu jen nyen gyo ti, tene tati nangan diwata wichi shos, tati ndajire gewa shena ta nyogi kyonsa chima tu ma wushe yorde, dorna tene karapara, une lama le rabdu ma wi salam tu tului pal nambar ki male mayang la mi damga nyese tere songre tene ta, ya nga ranzo de de kashe kangbanda diwara kangbanda kesa tokal mati rangde chigre, nyi su sona kiranzo ge mi tamche te tene ndila kawure, kansa sana che tere kubja ta tenzo la chigre ranga kubishi ki tere indi kanga tere madoge, lama le wola chu shu zala wola dego yore tene tiyan ti nganzo glab ki popi ki tradition marin di do sangi chubden de songjo tene re te tin de kan chu song ne kapso rabdu ma tulu palen number ke sem tulu sem ngargil me ba shadang me ba tene lama la te batang tene kar ko rang chu la kuba lama la te batang chu la kuba toni nyengu ju ti tene kunju ti tin na tu res tene taron ta ngone chege na tene lama la chu shu ne kapso cha sar wala sa ba mandal pro wala sa ba tene Google domain la trudan den se tene song share te tin de la ati kanse na kola ji respect of should go say in sare tene mare te kiran su tham ji nga lama yin sen de chu shu ye na chu shu lu de kandere pyoge tradition de kandere chidang chu korang get na dang kandere ti da ko wore te mago panche lami gi shu shi gi de ko ma shere kiran su chu nyen na yang te nyen gi de ko ma shere tin de kan ta ngaran su de la nga Australia nang sim thar ngu ji la kiran su den shu ne de yong se be je so yen number ta ba ji kyo she wore te kiran su yang 강차자지 number ta ba ji go go ma to ge den de chu she so nga zu nyen den ji ge ngaran su na ji film ta ge na shin ge den de ge den TV ta ge na ji ta to so den pen to ma re den de ka la ken da ba kun ju ti ya tin na shin na no.
So that's the motivation. Then we have the conduct, right? So there's a lot we could say about conduct, like in the scriptures, it's taught that we should be free of the 3 faults of the vessel, be rid of the 6 stains and so on when listening to the teachings, or indeed when engaging in any Dharma practice. But in short, the conduct that we should adopt when listening to the Dharma teachings is that we should be careful to remain alert, not fall asleep. We should be careful not to be disrespectful to the teacher and to others. We should pay attention and be focused. So we shouldn't, for instance, talk at any point during the teaching. We shouldn't, look at our phone, engage in distraction, send messages or anything like that. We should just remain focused, respectful, and alert throughout the entire session, with our mind free of afflictions, free of emotions like anger, jealousy, and so on. Just focused in a pure and humble way on the teachings. Buddha himself said in the sutras, listen attentively and I will teach you. So he was referring there to the conduct that a student should adopt during a teaching session. So in short, we should listen just like a deer listening to noise. A deer listens really poised and focused to noise, right? So we should listen to a Dharma teaching in that way. Buddha also taught that one should pay respect to the teacher, whoever is sharing the Dharma. One should pay respect to them and express that respect by, for instance, not sitting at a level higher than them and so on. Of course, here some of you are seated on chairs. This is how it is these days. Some people have knee problems or back problems, and you can't sit on chairs. And also just, I know in modern culture, we don't have the habit of sitting cross-legged, so that's fine. But the point is that one should adopt a very humble attitude towards the teacher, free of any negative emotions, and listen with respect. And like I said, for the motivation, this also applies to other Dharma activities like making mandala offerings, prostrations, whatever. The same conduct applies. You might think, why is this teacher saying this? Like, who is he? Why should I respect him, you know? No, I'm not saying any of this with reference to myself. There's no me in this. I'm actually just quoting what Buddha himself said. You might also think, oh, well, this is just the Tibetan tradition, how they do it. But it's nothing to do with Tibet or Tibetan culture. This is actually based on Buddha's own statements that you can find in the sutras, in the scriptures. This is the basic Buddhist conduct that we should adopt when listening to teachings. I've come here at your invitation, right? I've come here all the way to Australia at your invitation, and you invited me to teach the Dharma. And you are here yourself to listen to the Dharma. So it's important that I do my job properly so that you can benefit accordingly, right? Otherwise, if I kind of compromise my explanations, compromise what I say, then it could end up just being like entertainment, you know, just like watching TV or watching a movie. And what would the point in that be? Yes.
Oh yeah, the into tang around so kulong tang kunju ni de dortu jin shebar pe mig du dure te de jin she tsane ta tering around so sheji ge chute tekbar ba gui ge nam shata ken ba she sa gore ta tekbar ba na ba gudi go ni kan shi gore ti ken so ge tekbar ni ni she ken so ge go ni ti go ba kan yores na o chue tam ji ge niluk de ken so ha ko yores chue ge tam ji ge niluk de ha ko che da tekbar ba gu nam she tekbar ba gui ge nam ta drops na da ta shu ti ni ne around so zo ga chi bu chu yin sa go yore 오야 드네 저거 친구게 주디 니루게 터득과 터득과데 거వర్체발라 계란소 탐지기 드네 택바리 막 구이게 남샤데 하마고나 저거 친구들 작쇼리 드롭리 스긴티 균진데 고마레 당분이 택바 오버기 균진데 하고나 때 택바 고마게 저거 친구게 캐주디 강아래도 니 딜라 메겐게 콘졸라 메겐게 tene zoba chimbola kari dengi tu ten zoba sibi ke tawa de shen la kibar thobi ke pashu dire tu sa ko wala te rimba shindu ten shegu yores te ti ndu kala te tirin kana zo te bar ma gui nam shati tene ma shegres.
So that was an extremely concise explanation of the motivation and the conduct, so please keep those in mind. I'll now begin the explanation of the 9 yanas, which is our kind of subject proper for today's session. So you might think, well, why are we discussing the 9 yanas? What is the importance of this, of these 9 yanas, or 9 vehicles, we could say, in English? The purpose of the 9 yanas, or of studying the 9 yanas, is to come to understand. The purpose of the 9 yanas themselves is to understand the natural state of things, the natural state of phenomena, which is what we need to do, right? We need to come to understand the natural state of things. And in order to do that, we need the 9 yanas, the 9 vehicles. The peak, or the top of these 9 yanas, the ultimate of these 9 yanas is Dzogchen, the great perfection. And in order to understand that, Dzogchen, the great perfection, which teaches the ultimate state of all things, the ultimate view, then we need to understand all the 9 yanas in their entirety. Without an understanding of, a comprehensive understanding of all of the vehicles, the lower vehicles included, we won't be able to understand the great perfection. We need to understand the lower vehicles, what they teach, so that we can thereby see the special features, the unique qualities and the subtleties of the great perfection view and approach. So this is the reason why we are looking at the 9 yanas, this topic.
Oh, the thing do I didn't share the Taparim Baguir, but a cousin Kiranso there and Ala, Mengata Ting the Shabu stand when you'll tell them. Tenenga, Mengata Ting Shigula shares, Consana, Mengata Mongushi Sarah, Gomba, Nangi Mengata the Tarishingashin, La Mangashe, Pets Archimbushore, the ne, the chicken long young ala yore, the teaching is Sarmogushere, then also there to do Mungilla, they must soon to Sangadu, Telerimbuji. Didi initiation against the Lundo you done Madoki, Didi can about Danda in Devaja to Mare, to Zuyoma, Sangumar. The teach someone like the Lundo is my dojan, I did that she lunged around in Madamazuka Pantom, Sangre, then they come to Zutunjin on a Shepherd Chevala, then Mengata Chin is and the Ming the Kujima to get Dondashi with Unsamare, then you can take a Tepar Bagui Namsha Sheshana, then Mengata Chinki, Dondas with duty. Menga touching Nang shake Tabaraburi, Tabagubar good, Menga touching Lama Pez Guri, Miso Yangi, Kezuta Hakumarte, whether you're taking a miso down there, but that doesn't intend and Tamja, Queen Imagine a Mega touching condition, as I am Miso Tamje, Nala Chalegre, Nala Gemushel. The Indukana, the Caranzola and Pantoa Chitan, Tonda Puni, Menga touching Tonda Tamji, Yuba Chitan. Dine dinang shingi pe lung lo pe mangu de mawa ne diwa chi tan ko lao chi ne diwa chi da ko lao chi shena kirang so la plan to chi da dine ngone ge yabu yong sare sa ngi ti chi ni she bare de kirang ya de wa ge wa ta bo so na ni dang to in ji to tham ji gyur sare yore se tu te ti de ka ten so la ta ge na te a rum chi la pyo de da me nga ta tin sung pyu ngi dik du da min du sa ne ta ge na te kirang so ha ko gare la Dina Mago Tamji Tandin Dia was a god service, like around the recording Chigoyore. Then, Mengatating Tana, Didi, Ki Nashing, Goja Nashing, Gochi Nashing Jiggy, Canton Pantavium Grace.
At the center here, you requested me to teach this specific text, a specific text by Padmasambhava called A Garland of Views, which is a summary of the 9 vehicles. It covers all 9 vehicles from the 1st up to the 9th. And I was a little hesitant to accept, not because I haven't taught this text before. I've taught it at least 4 or 5 times at the monastery. And I have the transmission, the oral transmission, and also the transmission, we say like the oral transmission and teaching transmission. I have both of those. So it's not that I lack the confidence to teach the text itself, but it's the time frame to teach this profound text. It's more than 30 pages long, and the subject matter is extremely profound and vast. So to teach it just in 2 days, in 2 sessions, I thought, how on earth will I do that, you know? So that was my worry. I thought, maybe I could just give you the lung, you know, the oral transmission, and then you'd have the lung. But then, of course, having the lung, the oral transmission is good, but, you know, to go to all of this effort for me to come here and you to arrange and just do that, it's not so beneficial. So what I'm going to do, what I've decided to do, is over these 2 days, to base my teachings on A Garland of Views, this text by Padmasambhava, and based on the text, give you an overview of the essential, crucial points of the 9 yanas as taught in this text. I think this will be beneficial. By condensing all the vital points, they'll be more easy to understand and keep in mind. It's also possible within the time frame. And it'll give you then a kind of key, we could say, like a key that you can then use to open vaster knowledge in the future if you wish to, because the text itself and also the commentary are now translated and available in English. So if you're interested to study in more detail, you can, in the future, look at those. And having received my explanation today and tomorrow, you'll have a good basis and grounding to understand those more detailed explanations, and you can see, do the texts themselves match with what I taught or not, and so on. So that is my plan, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, tini ta tekbar ba gudi ta mega touching na so ai du kana mega touching ki ta tekbar mi di gui gi sheji di bidro sawani ngores.
So as I've said, this text, A Garland of Views, is an explanation of the 9 vehicles, and it itself is based on the Guhyagarbha Tantra.
직당 되네 벽이 제방 야로당 롬보당 미망 탐제라 뚝세와 신부고네 마치 다 디디 냠소나 빼미게 별 경신벌에 이 마냐베체도 팔아 되네 주상완이 곳에 빼미게 균출 상완이 곳에 규침부시고제 되네 디나라 규줄 마부 게스 마부 디마시나 보디 마부 빼미 조자게치 뭐다 되는 방법이다 딘소 탐지게 냥하도 출 뒤니소나 되네 별업 되네 갈보다 롬보다 탐지라 펜토그레스 냠렌체기가 상기 고보는 뭐지 세직류지가 상기 고보는 뭐지 두발라 펜토그게 두그즈네 땡구른 뭐지 맹아 단팅 쓰긴게 되네 슝디 잠는 거 그렇게
When Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava was in Tibet, he taught the Guhyagarbha Tantra extensively, many times, and he taught in Tibet for many years. But when he was leaving Tibet, he had a doubt, and his doubt was, he had a concern that in the future, even though he taught the Guhyagarbha Tantra very extensively and many times, that those teachings might decline. And so out of love for his students, the king and his heart disciples and other followers, and also students of the future, then he put together this text, A Garland of Views, which summarizes very succinctly all of the essential content of the Guhyagarbha Tantra into just a few pages, to prevent those teachings falling into decline and potentially getting lost. So this composition was written out of love and concern by Guru Rinpoche. Just knowing that the Guhyagarbha Tantra is so vast and so profound, its extensive version is 8 volumes long, and there are many other volumes of teachings on it. So out of concern that his disciples just wouldn't be able to accommodate those teachings, then he gave us this text. And this profound text, in which he condenses all of that content into a method whereby one can attain in a single lifetime and a single body the perfect state of enlightenment.
Tene tekbarin bagu di chitang tere chesha yore singi tene ma lungji ma lyongi peche kyo la yu kiri mato patang lobar to shoto yangtang yima to tene durba gomba sangwa tang sa rangshin sangwe to namni si yiki tata ming chok la tenbi siki rapsun te kongni kapi tun jimba donba doji tula ne se ta tekbarin bagu di gyu sangwa nyingbo nang se ta tingi kali shi draba jagi tiring sang yin yikon di khandi kawar mdo bari
So, just to reiterate what I said, A Garland of Views was composed by Guru Rinpoche, based or rooted in the Guhyagarbha Tantra, and the subject of the Guhyagarbha Tantra is the 9 yanas, all 9 yanas. In the 13th chapter of the Guhyagarbha Tantra, there is several lines which read, no understanding, wrong understanding, partial understanding, non-understanding of the ultimately true nature, discipline, mind, secret, natural secret. The meaning of these are present in the Vajra mind of the teacher, who perfectly demonstrates them by means of phrases that depend on the assemblage of names designated by language, drawing out the meaning hidden within.
Tene ta tanda garanzo tekbar bagu sagente sheshite tene mengata chingki tsawate kansasana gyutru sangwa nyingbore gyutru sangwa nyingbosna doje samba gyutru tene doje samba gyutru chawas labja de kanti tene sangi wangtan dewa yokinchire teres kansasana di ngarang suge doji sembege ta oni doji sembati gewa chige na ni smu ginru sawani bu shego yores ginru sawani bu sugenti doji sembege devares.
Also, as I've said, this garland of views condenses the meaning of all 9 vehicles, gives us a summary of the 9 vehicles, and is based on the teachings of the Guyagarbha Tantra. The Guyagarbha Tantra itself is based on or rooted in the magical matrix of Vajrasattva. The Tantra of the magical matrix of Vajrasattva. So this is also a connection with the empowerment that I will give in the coming days, right? If you really want to practice Vajrasattva, go into Vajrasattva in a lot of detail, then actually the Guyagarbha is that. It is based on the Tantra of Vajrasattva.
Oh ya, tati indu kala kerang ngak kazing kege tila du kala durji sembu ong dong gare, mengat tasing dong gare se du kala ngarang samlo kare samson. Oh, anzo E-Vam ge ten loma so tamje yundin chimbo re du, tene pe mi ge mengat tasing singen de shung pesa chimbo, pe kangjin jong la tene ngone gurimbo chige kongrang ge rangzum ge tene shung ti mengat tasing re, pe mi ge sa chimbo dila ta rangzum maa pande te gin tewa yore, jumi pamrimbo chige chen tewa yore. 공들 게 되어서래 따디는 신 개와 망부지게 들어와던 제샤요래 티 견도 담진 딘딩게 되네 따빠시지 오네게 취야 호지 죄시와라 ngaranzo tiran ke damga tangwala rangla yunde tos gor ma to men ti damga chishege mari intu kala ene dorji semba ta menga ta ringi pe mekin trawa chimbu nga samso ta E-Vam nang ta tos chela tunye yoge ta tos ge chhe ha kongi mango yusare samge to trachons.
So when you, when all of you at E-Vam Institute first invited me, you made these 2 requests, right? First to give a teaching on a garland of views, and also to bestow the Vajrasattva empowerment and transmissions. And when I received that request, I thought, these guys must know something. They must be quite learned. Because first of all, you need to know your stuff to choose a text like this, right? This is such a profound and essential text for all the reasons I've mentioned already. It's also a text that has been explained in commentaries by some of the greatest masters of the past. Rongzom Mahapandita wrote a commentary on a garland of views. Likewise, Mipam Rinpoche, I think also Kongtrul. So there are many commentaries as well explaining this text. And in addition, as I just explained, garland of views through the Guyagarbha Tantra is connected to Vajrasattva, and you had also requested Vajrasattva. So I thought your request reflected your knowledge and also your interest in the Dharma.
Yeah, that mangdo joshasare ta dodok chushege na tine tekpar bagugi ewa di condition koresna tekpa gugo tekwa seta ngarazu nyente rangya chanju sumki tekwa sum ya tine tina singe tia upayoga sumki tekwa sum tine maha anu ati tan tekwa sum tekpar bagus tisege yore tindu kala tekpa segenti lam tekpa segin koran tanda ti lamre tine ngarazu dodupa nani 택반 딘니 칸타샤 강신티 가기 대와 뭐버 토제 택비초 대강쇼네 선전담지 냥엔도 스나 냥엔다 디디 강 강성에서는 택바스겐들 사바스는 야치와 니요 사바스겐데 동반이기 때문에 야치와 스겐 사탄 사주다 람게 남샤레 야 디인디 강 드네 택반 딘니 칸다서 카스 남카스는 사비트 동반이기 때문에 샬메 칸스기는 샬메 칸스는 빼미게 칸바기보 대 하이기 칸발 샬메 칸스다 빼미게 로이 쳇메 바 샹다 뀌다 지금 양다 찍바던 트조던 조코바던 저름보 지금 렉삼기미 개버들다 샬메 칸스와레 단당스는 빼네 거베 갈칸 야버튼 저보던 빼미게 찍거든 도와 두베서나 칸바지 쿠시우드라다 그들 샬메 칸스인데요 칸스다야 딘데시게 드네 샬메 칸스는 칸바서 티나 풍순 좀 탐지에 빼티나 이제 사주들 람가디 빼미 풍순 좀 바래 도치게 람가다 순당 사주 진주 탐제라 샬메 칸스라베 야 택반 딘니 칸다 샬메 칸센데에서 택바스긴 돈다디 칸라 고거선 람라 고거래 람딜라 사비 람지당 야치빌라 밀 고거래 the kanta tekpandine kanta shalme kangsente dekang saratine tekpandine kanta shalme kangsente gagi deva ngopar tumji tekbi choyosta negab gi devaya tilatirin jungres lam tine gata ya sapata gyachivi gi tawa tilatirin jungres thartu gi deva tian telachun jungres ti indi kala dekang shune semjen tamje nyangin do la te tekbi lam la shune nyentu gi ndu dia tekbal tene thogare rang sangi gi ndu tene ndu dia tilatene thogare chanju sem gi lam ya tekbal tene thogoyare tene tiya upayoga ma anwa te tam ji de tekbal tene thogoyindu dekang shune sen pena singda sangbo ji shune tene saje tele ga ngara dang ta marsiri bench do da red se sarwal rice se gendo gari chu puje shune do gen saje tele bro 오 빼때나 신지게 택버스기니 슈엄바레 오 야타 딜 슈엔티니 사자티 랑기 디스틴 가왈레 번 텔랩토 거레 티팅지 강라 티니 슈규 택바티 강레스나 삽다 게치빌람 미레 티니타 냐란 년데잖아 코랑글랍도 빼사보다 게치고 인세게 랑상게 코랑글랍도 사치고 게치고 인세게 셈자바 코랑글람 게치고 인세게 대신도 마 아누 파르도 코랑람 찌글레 찌사바 인세게데 아이나야 미직시나 덴덴 야 따지기는 조조스 가지고 벽에 빼지거래 따지기는 그 조거를 통할 때 현다 dur는데 조거 이만 하고 그러 미지 카드 오시오제는 그 카드 오시오지도 사실 미이 얘네 그 디벨치게는 카드를 하고 그러 빼때는 이 택바 탐지 야고 인수고 그러대 택바 탐지게 나와다 자와다 민다 왜 개발 강도 선에티네 시에도기 들이 택비 거니 개발 시작 그래 택바 투민스게 තියා tene kara tawi kone she gore tekpa tumin segen tian tawa kone se tawa tira sapata kyache wa ni yore dire chin dogo yin de kanga tene ndro tawa se goti yunsen di tekpa di tawa kone tekpa segen de lamre lamti tawi kone she go yore di kanga menga tawi changwa asene sungo gyuti tires menga se de delek to porche wala menga segen de delek le ka ujini ko key point se do injike no so tinte de la tene menga serve 야ten tawa segendi tini sabda gyashivilam gilase goyvaris tangeni mongushen keryan kali machine ke perfect.
So we better get to the actual topic of the 9 yanas, right? So what do we mean? We have 9 yanas, or actually I think I'll use the English from now on, 9 vehicles. How do we divide them up? Well, they're divided up into 3 sets of 3. So first of all, the vehicles of the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, these 3. The second set are the 3 tantras of Kriya, Upa, and Yoga, those 3. And then finally, the tantras of Maha, Anu, and Ati, these 3. Altogether, these make up the 9 vehicles. What does the word vehicle or yana actually mean? It means path or highway. There is a verse in scripture called Dodupa. It's a very important scripture. To paraphrase, it says there, vehicle, a so-called vehicle is like space, and it's like an immeasurable palace. So a vehicle, we said a vehicle means a path, and a vehicle, meaning the path, has 2 qualities, profundity and vastness. So the vehicle or the path is both profound, referring to emptiness, and vast, referring to the 10 bhumis and the 5 paths. So the vehicle is like space in that it is profound meaning profound emptiness, right? Emptiness which is like space. It's also like an immeasurable palace because it is just so rich, so full of riches and exquisite structures. Just like imagine the most beautiful palace or mansion, or some of those amazing mansions you see in Dubai. Think of them, just these beautifully built rooms with extraordinary designs and pillars and beams and murals and gems and all sorts of extraordinary sights to be found in those palaces. So a vehicle is like such a palace in terms of its richness of the 5 paths and the 10 bhumis. So just to reiterate, the quotation says, a vehicle is like space and a vehicle is like a palace. This is referring to a vehicle's 2 qualities of profundity and vastness. The second line, to paraphrase, reads, vehicles deliver one to temporary and also ultimate happiness. So any of these given vehicles will bring you temporary happiness of mundane well-being and so on, but also the ultimate happiness of liberation at the respective state of that vehicle. And these qualities apply for all 9 vehicles, right? So whichever of these 9 vehicles you follow, they will deliver you to their respective state of liberation. So whether it be the ultimate fruition of the Shravaka vehicle, the Prasyaga vehicle, Bodhisattva vehicle, likewise the vehicles of Kriya, Upa, and Yoga, the vehicles of Maha, Anu, and Ati. All of them will deliver you to their respective ultimate state. So in this sense, a vehicle is like a chariot, or we could say in modern terms like a car, but like the best kind of car, like a Mercedes-Benz or a Rolls-Royce or something. These vehicles will take you wherever you want to go. Of course, all vehicles, like I said, are profound and are vast, and each vehicle also really kind of, in colloquial terms, kind of talks itself up. But we have a saying in each of them is profound and vast, but that's not to say there aren't differences between them. So each vehicle is successively more vast and more profound than the other, even though the followers of the given vehicle might not recognize that. We have a saying in Tibet which goes something like, the owner of their own, a man will say of their own horse that they're the fastest horse around, but that's before they've raced, before they've raced against anyone else, right? So it's a bit like that. When you do compare the vehicles, you do see differences in their profundity and vastness successively from the Shravaka vehicle up to the Ati vehicle at the top. But in conclusion, they all deliver you to an ultimate fruition, and they all have their qualities of profundity and vastness. When we compare the vehicles, we need to compare them in terms of their view. So we said a vehicle is essentially a path, but the path is determined by the view. So when we compare the vehicles, we compare them by means of their view. That's it.
Oh yeah, tini tanganzo tanjagi tini ta mengata wi changwa segente ta wi ko ne ta thekpa rimba gui namshap de tawa ko ne shawar tanda kena wa shusaro tire ta wi ko ne kepara shaware ten tawa de kanjwe se panchu thekpa rimba gui nala rana sosuke tine tawa ke ko ne kepara yoba dubjir kanyore se panchu aranzo ngishirim buchi dumi nala tawa segente mashi korangde ngishi lo tashibe lo chige tila ngishi se tene du kama pena nyentwe do jina kansa ka dame tila pe tajen o ta kansa ka dame la labeki tawa ji tokyo mare samne kansa ka dame tene shiwa chochi ki nyangde zam tokyo re ran sanji ki kansa ka dame tola songwa ran shin ki mebra topan zimba ran shin mebra 마도 네 디네 송아랑시 메버 또바다 강사 신이게 또고요. 디인디 들어 답이 또당데 간데 차가져서 따와게 또당데 개발 차송하래. 디네 따와 세겐데 지기 싸와데 강데지를 세고여서 반주 랑게 타주 랑게 tum달라. 가시서 나 셈점be tum다인데 셈점발라 이시면은 셈점be tum다 용도고 말해. 나 조바 친구인 착자 친구인 랍나 착자 친구게 따와들라 이치당 네바지 마게 벌도 착자 친구게 되네 아란소이나 람 착자 친구 인선에 참 착자 친구 남바르게 말해. 조바 친구 인 람나 조바 친구게 따와라 이시지 로그 타치비 이시지 마기게 벌도 잘 말해. 디엔도 강나타 나랑도 택바림바 구시게인데 탐제티가 미치게 택바림바 구시고 말해. 디엔도 강나랑도 감나 옹비고 거니 니 타와데 배양다 바이 사람에 고니 딜람 텐데데 버다 미국에 람 구지라 지어르데 때이는 조바 친구 람라 띠나 다른 현다게 마토고 차레레 야 또비 차례다 마또비 차례리 대 통그래 야 대인도 간라 강사 그다음에 어디 약버렸대 강사 그다음에 통내 약버렸대 있나야 야 강사 추기 다음에 마또비 뒤견지래서요 대인도 간라 년도 랑상게 되어이나 아야테네 강사 그다음에 땡라 종아랑시 메버도와티 가마들에서다 양 짐바랑시 마또와 대왕게 랑상게 티한테 똑바터도 말이서거래 장주선배야 추기 다음에 단 강사 그다음에 이가 또래 티 가마서 약버렸어요 야 렉비차티 때레테 있나야 되는 타니도 되는 다바람 좀 마또와다 타니도 되는 그런 단다이네 되는 그런 양다 군접당 로브 군접라서 치비고 왕기 ini umapaya tene zoba chimbutang yagine sanga doji tikbe tawal tina taronya number matawa chatewre din nashi tadi brief le shevin ta ma gewa sham shegre din nashi chege anu yokala samultang kanse tia dan yun tia upa yokala samultang na yang kongmal tene matawa charere tang legbi charere tang matawa cha ngiri ta ya zoba chimbul leon di kana tene tamje lekba bashi matoki tene gyönsin chigamyo pena sergiling la sona sadu phalwa salya mingiwa na sinchege zoba chimbu ke tawale te kaunte complete koran ko pa chatu yo o te indi kaunta tekbu rimba tiya chedang de tinda yimba hakwa na o zoba chimbu segen te kharoge za chimbu yin ngai pe ya bu yin se kyo remindu ati gyönsin de te bu go ne retu a samja hakwa na te keram so yan zoba chimbu chedang tene ngone zo ta la ije tumo mai be ke to gore ije tumo mai be ke so na teni lam khanda na te lam yang ta pachila judo re lam yang ta pa judo na te du sang ye ko bol to pilaya teni kasik ba chagres
So we're looking at this, so Garland of Views, this text by Guru Rinpoche, just to state again, it is a summary of the 9 vehicles, the 9 successive vehicles. It gives us an overview of each of the 9 vehicles based on what? Based on the view, right? Based on the view presented by each of these vehicles. So each of these vehicles have a different view. What do we mean by view? There's a text by Mipam Rinpoche called A Beacon of Certainty. It's also translated in English. And in that text, yeah, we won't quote from the text, but just with regards to the meaning of the word view, view we can say actually means certainty, a state of certainty or conviction. So to have a view means to have ascertained with conviction a certain outlook, right? And thereby you hold a certain view. For instance, in the vehicle of Shravakas, the vehicle of listeners, the view that they hold is the selflessness of the person, the selflessness of the individual person. They've achieved a conviction in that outlook, the fact that the self of the person does not exist, right? So that is their view. The next vehicle up, the vehicle of Pratyeka Buddhas, there they, in addition to having conviction in the selflessness of the person, they also come to understand that the perceived aspect of phenomena does not exist. So they have a greater view. Conviction also, yeah, they have this greater view. And likewise, as you move through the vehicles, then from the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle up to the Bodhisattva vehicle and so on. So when we talk about the view, we're basically talking about conviction. So we as practitioners need to develop a conviction in the view of the vehicle that we claim to follow, right? You can meet a lot of people these days who say, oh, well, I practice the great perfection, or I'm a follower of Mahamudra. But they're not actually clear about what the view of the great perfection is, what the view of Mahamudra is, and they lack conviction, like an experiential conviction in that view. Until you have like a felt conviction in the view of a given vehicle, you don't actually qualify as a follower of that vehicle. So in the case of the great perfection, when do you become a great perfection practitioner? It's when once you have developed conviction in the view of the great perfection. Until that point, you cannot say that you are a follower or a practitioner of the great perfection. when you study and come to understand the view of the Great Perfection, which is the summit of all 9 vehicles, from that point you can look down, so to speak, and see the views of all of the lower vehicles. And you can come to appreciate how each of them have certain merits, certain excellent qualities, but also how each of them lacks certain things as well. So, for instance, the Shravaka vehicle, what they have is a realization of the selflessness of the person, but they lack realization of many other things, right? So that's their kind of virtue, so to speak, but then their deficiency, then you can identify that they have certain deficiencies. Likewise, the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle, okay, they lack one of the Shravaka vehicle's deficiencies because they come to realize that their realization is greater than the Shravakas. They realize the selflessness of the perceived aspect of phenomena, but they don't have certain realizations that, say, the Bodhisattva vehicle does, right? And so on and so forth as you proceed through, say, the Bodhisattva vehicle and through the outer tantras of Kriya Upayoga, all the way up to Ati, the summit of the 9 vehicles. About the Bodhisattva vehicle, so the Bodhisattva vehicle comes after the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle. They realize the selflessness of both person and phenomena in their entirety, but when it comes to their understanding of relative truth, they have this conceptual division of conceptual division of correct and mistaken relative truth. And from the perspective of the tantric teachings, that is actually a deficiency, that's a misunderstanding that actually separates them. That means they're kind of removed from the depth of understanding of the tantric vehicles. And so on and so forth, right? Once you reach the Great Perfection, the summit of the 9 vehicles, you have all of the excellent qualities, so to speak, and you've removed all of the deficiencies. It's a bit like arriving at an island made of gold. When you arrive at an island made of gold, you're not going to find a single particle of sand, right? That's the quality of the Great Perfection. And the virtue of studying the 9 vehicles, as we are, is that you come to really understand this. Because when you study and you look at all of the view of the 9 vehicles, from the first all the way up to the top, only then can you come to understand, by comparison, the qualities of the Great Perfection, right? It's through comparison that you come to understand its unique features, its special qualities, why it is such an extraordinary vehicle, approach, and view. And when you really understand that, and you develop the conviction, which is what we mean by view, right? Then you will not only have confidence and resolute faith in the teachings, you'll also have delight, diligence, just naturally in practicing. And as a result, you will traverse very swiftly to the state of enlightenment, awakening, without any hardship. So this is the virtue of engaging in this kind of study.
Gui tekwas getting into Tepanera, Yelge Tepa Chansu Tempe Tria to Upa, Maha Anu Gepartu, Tepa Tamchiti, the Nekubki, the Topchi, the Nekubki, the Lam Project, Lam Sartuboti, Regular Maris, D Tepas. Oh, yeah, the Nekansana, and Dur Tepas to come and do Tepas, the do Tepati, Zopachimbo, and do Tepati, Zopachimbo Shichi, so Salaptical, then Tapa Tamji, Tartu, Tusasananda. Tartukin Jungun Senanda, then it's Opashimbo and Dukanla, Tilla Consequence, then in Jewish pass. The Tati Mayim became Tepuzoshim, Zopachu Mayim became Anu Yoga name, Magin to Tepa Getilla, Guit pass, or a constant Gula Dupnity, good in a Jewish jail to pay a Tintikala, the Latin Guit was over. Zopachim was in Jewish, but Tatarang had a court to the toy and Tatarang sang get you as a Jewish was over. The Sangi and Shazashan Jaljuka, Rang is some getting a Jalgore, Mit Hamjigula, dashing poster and Jungi system, Tamchile Yori, Oyati, Tinjukala, Tigi, Gunsela Tene, Tingazo Tamjasang, Gay, Roma, Imbatan, Sang Gay Chowatan, Oyati, Tamjit, she dashing go around Jula Semla, you begin singing race. Tetindu, Takba Shinta Tamchilla, Deshe Yingu, getting into the Rangel Sanjuchola, she devotion Yingu, you Marivesina, Yoda Yorite, in a Ngomashi was a penna, Michi Chicken Commission, Yijing in Nurujilam Galina, called the Shell Dotos, the Dotos or Kagasangumari. Most easy to get again, then Tigger and Tan Hop, or that day, when you get in Tan country and Delapejo country may hop or Petina Shinjig into the Shinging would not some Tamji Gula Yorite, the Shinging would Yona, the Shinging would in Alonso. Tabo Yamato, the singing will let the around so come to Chimatu to Kala, the Tamal Gessimjan, the chick, but the singing would the Simjin Tamjali, Pantoyo Mare, then to Kala, Tamchiki and the around so Yamlente, Chiki Tabiki net the Comako Rally Diore, then to Kala, Tawa the Covarchevala, Guite and Duite was taken number Yesivan, the sing Guite was Tamji and Tartu, so watching between Tochikuton, in a young. The Tokyo Rimbo to Zermo would do it one Kalwatam among the souls on the Sanji Kobanto with Tinata. The Kashi the Kalwatam, soon the Sanji, and Kashi Nikawa Dun, Kashi Nikawa chick, not in a Joshua to get in it, watching when you mention and chicken Dawasum, the Losum, the Dawasum Nala Sanji to the Sonshire. But yeah, Tamchilla the Capco Gimarate, Donna Lamti in a Yurmurchik and Lamti Summer and dance on a rocket now drogendo. Oh, yeah, Tintin now drogen, I think a Lamke, go looking you sit with it. And Yoris.
The vehicles can also be divided into causal vehicles and resultant vehicles, or fruitional vehicles. And when we divide the 9 yanas in this way, then we can say that the first 8 vehicles, so from the Shravaka vehicle all the way up to the Anu vehicles, so Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, Bodhisattva, the 3 outer tantras, and then Maha and Anu of the inner tantras. All of those 8 vehicles are actually causal vehicles because they only deliver one to a temporary result. They do not deliver one to the ultimate, final, consummate fruition. Only the vehicle of great perfection does that. So the great perfection alone is the resultant vehicle or the fruitional vehicle. In the lower 8 vehicles, so we call them causal vehicles in the sense that there's a process of establishing a cause that over time then transforms into a result. There's like a successive, that might not be the best word, but it's a successive process that takes place. Whereas in the great perfection, the vehicle of the great perfection, there's no process, so to speak. It's simultaneous, simultaneous attainment of the ultimate consummate fruition. These points, this and these other points, we can hear we can hear about them, but we need to ascertain their meaning and significance for ourselves, right? These distinctions rest on the fact that all beings have Buddha nature. All beings' basic nature is Sugatagarbha, or Buddha nature, self-arisen primordial wisdom. It's because of this that every sentient being, no matter who they are, has the potential to reach enlightenment, the potential to be awakened. It's not the case that the lower vehicles, like the vehicle of the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, lack Buddha nature. That's not the case at all. All beings, of course, including followers of the Shravaka vehicle and so on, have Buddha nature. There's no doubt about it. This is the basic nature, basic fiber of every single sentient being. However, they have not yet fully realized the presence of Buddha nature. They haven't realized their intrinsic basic nature. And as a result of that, by failing to recognize, then they have yet to manifest the ultimate fruition. They remain, as a result of not realizing, then we remain ordinary beings, right? Sentient beings, in spite of it being endowed with essentially an enlightened nature. You might think, well, how is that possible? If you have something, then surely you should be it. But it's very possible. Think of someone who has a really precious gemstone, but they're not aware of the value of it. They're not actually aware of what it is. they're going to remain poor until they realize what they have in their hand, right? So it's just like that with Buddha nature. We should also understand that all vehicles eventually do lead one to the ultimate fruition. They do all get you there eventually, but they take much, much longer than the vehicle of the great perfection. For instance, some of the first three vehicles of characteristics, the Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, and Bodhisattva vehicle, for instance, they take many eons, or 3 countless eons at the fastest in the Bodhisattva vehicle. Also several eons is how long it takes in the outer tantras, and so on and so forth. Whereas in the Great Perfection vehicle, it's possible to manifest the ultimate state of enlightenment within the course of a few months or a few years, or at least within a single lifetime. So in terms of the efficacy of the vehicles, you can also see the difference, right? So the Great Perfection vehicle, you could say, is like a rocket, whereas the other vehicles are like different modes of transport.
다 택박신다 남기게 될 림바타 칼리마 시월다 당쇼 디기드네 나랑 속에 캐퍼 슈르추기 추리 카르스티다 하고 버스 디디강 상원님 고니 죽도 버시나 돈다 쪽을 가서 당념 덴바 예르메스 시에요레스 당념 덴바 예르메스 강 다다는 슈탐지 상게레스 베나 나랑 속에 풍부하니 예네 되네 그러바라 상 결과링인 거는 상게되요레스 Tini chilo na juwa nga yor, kina Australia la sona sa chu mailing yor, nga zu pyo la sona sa chu mailing yor, America la sona zin zambuling kawai na nga ranzu tupchi ti sa dan chu dan me dan lungi tupchi na juwa nga YouTube ti yor. Kewa ji nga ranzu mi ji lu yin zina ni pungpo nga YouTube ti yor, ti tini yin bari ti yor. Ti yin du kang la, gyuchu sangwa nyingbo na kang song kya yor zina, emba o durji pungpo yin la na zopi sangi nga yor, keche kano nga ti yin shikbi rang singi, tini sa chu chenda mama ke kukrat tamsik drama o se, 남가 인게 인축마스 길드 상관이고 디송을 풍부간이 얘네 상기레스 드린 중부간이 중앙간에 사다 주다 메다 얘네 얘네 융가이고나 상기레스 다 딜랍도 카운테 택바신다 담지 다 팅고서고 메레스 팅고 마세도 칸라 디기네루게 타와티 타한테는 뭐고 나와니 된 두르니시 어디 칸라 데 캬버 카운도 메다 다 하고 거스 명아따리 난 대강 손셔요. 당이 되네 봐. 답도 오시면 뭐 쓱쓱 말어르시는 백깔이 가봉스러 봐. 내가 소 티랑레스.
It can help to at the outset of studying a certain subject matter to be introduced to kind of the main point, the main principle, or the overriding principle, which is what I'm getting at now. This is also what we call a kind of, the main point or vital point. As I've said, this text, Garland of Views, is based on the Guhyagarbha Tantra, and the heart or the main kind of point of the Guhyagarbha Tantra is the indivisibility of purity and equality, or we can say inseparable purity and equality. That's like the main point of the Guhyagarbha Tantra, which is the basis for a Garland of Views. What that means, to say the inseparability of purity and equality, that is referring to the fact that all phenomena, all things are Buddha, they are awakened, they are enlightened right here and now. So when we say all phenomena, we're referring to the 5 aggregates, the 5 elements, and so on, all things. The 5 aggregates that make up our being, these are primordially, spontaneously, the 5 male Buddhas. The 5 elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and space, these are the 5 female Buddhas by their very nature. Wherever you are in the world, the environment is made up of these 5 elements, right? Whether you're here in Australia, whether you're in another part of the world. Our bodies, our physical bodies, are also made up of these 5 elements, and these 5 elements are primordially and right now the 5 female Buddhas. The Guhyagarbha Tantra opens with lines that basically state this fact. They say, Emaho, how wonderful, all things are primordially primordially Buddha, and so on. I can't translate the lines Rinpoche recited. But, when you, other vehicles, so the lower vehicles, do not understand this profound point. They lack this outlook and understanding. So from this point of view, from this angle, so to speak, then we can see, by virtue of comparison, the differences then between the lower vehicles, right? So if you're if you're introduced to this overriding perspective, this highest overriding perspective from the beginning, from that perspective you can then see the differences and distinguish between the lower vehicles, right?
shego shunang ishe shege mare la she na tuzo ge ta den dawa ga sang mare logo ki tre de res indu ka ta shib chawa kirang taw sonan den dang khin de sure jiden wasal ning puta ge yus ten sawa ning bu jiden wasal ning puta ge yus ten la ke ja ko son te jiden wasal ning bu na din zo ge ne ga tham je pe me ge ka sa lo jin song sha yore gyuging go bu chu chik se ge na pe de ne gyure re tawa gomba tin kor tu ba tene chaja nga la so da tinani ta dona tabaram jom tu ka jam samche ke matters wora te ripati tabaram jom tu ka jam re de re te tizu gewa shego so na keso te ta wor ma to ge ngin de ne churu ching na she tu ke mare la ma zon to tu ke mare ta ina ya key point to ji menga ke sul ta na dro menga ngi so gore te in du ka to do she ba ina 당념 된 바 irmi second 두자들이 되어서 당념 된 바 irmi 마기 규대 오마도 파쇼세데 아누 요가다 되네 그러바 마하 요가다 아누 요가 그냥 또 뱀미 또 거때 있나야 타르고도 또 마도 왠지 아누 요가다 되네 마하 요가다 아누 요가야 대과 조바 첨불 되네 다른 람 걸와 임바 람 또스 다른 아이티 베 ngaransoena lam norte ba imbachi te dugere te indu kan menga tatina ti dugere yutu sawani bu nala en tisung share te indu ta menga de share te geba shige ina tene kama ze gyuging obu chuchi tam je shego wala so bata tene ngaranso yutu sawani bu nala kansong de shenju tsingen junjer be son tu tu je gyudan ken tene nitu jendo kan je wa ringzin gerbi shin do tak se tene gyushebi tsingi tawa genjik be tsingi gomba tene nyamso langnen diwo tartu sangi koban top kyuse te tene song share ta tenzo ke tawa go ne shana pe gya chimbo gomba go ne pe gya chimbo re ta tenzo tamche te kirang tamche kirang la ba sha shage tene jiden wasri ning bola loro chis te tene singe sawa ning bu juru choju manse so dan gyursa yore sege ko songi na gyur yore choju manse gyursa yore
yore
oya ta tenzo na ta ge na te kirang ta gyurju kan gyurju kan shi tange ha go me gyurgen 식zam기 교류에나 전도 따따데 랩토에만 등이 하고도 다야고 교류를 담사 빼매게 인지 담제배 로자 같은 제 개와 먹고 요사래데 교류에나 된전 나왔다나 되기는 가도 야고 하고 그래서 따디 인도가 따 딜응이 다나 견나 휴기지 강도서 반죠 능데 당념 레스라 봤다 풍부 계속의 풍부간의 인상계래 조항간의 인상계래서 라로 풍부가다 윤가다 상계때 마임바지를 레스는 곱조사와 있는 말에 운이 그래 되어 그래서 운이기 임바텔라 가서 하고 와 말이스 하 마고도 간라 당상 가서 사이언티스트 속에 서로 리서치는 서로 방고지 가서 뛰어온 것도 니 매바지 서로 뛰어 좀 말해스 요래도 가서 고 마셔 pen 가디 세컨드 로 자인제 뭐 가디 요 말스 되니 다니 되니 규긴 되니 소는 되니 레드 와서 당상 가디 서와 요래 로켓 로켓 요래 다음에다 망고 살아버도 양 당상 되니 니치스레다 컴퓨터 다다 가라서 되게 미디어 나나 서버 먹고 연구도 대소 탐시야 우리 이릭비게 남지 거니 지야리마도 서브 지지가 매겐지 사투 두기도 요마 시자 거랑 모션 그 포스트가 남기 메토드가 나신지 사이언티스트가 자소도 비죠 말이스 티엔도 칸라 칸 뎀바티 온도 그게 페랑 가라서 백 고디오션은 진짜고 티엔도 칸 가라서 줄라야 대열식 미닝 보여래 랑중기 이시여래 티 랑중기 이시데 예네 당념 뎀바 예미가 라신들에 되어래 텐두타 티드 몬도 치브르쳐 때 게림 곰나가 또 조름 곰나가 또 조바심부 그리파 곰나타나가 티 곰나도 깨지셔요 다 텐두가 땅 알아서 지도 탐지때 조바심부에서 풍부간이 얘는 상계래 몰람 잡는 상계래 세계도다 중앙아리 용가의 상계래 티 몰람 잡는 두비 딘데 자와기는 말 딘디 그런 게 그런 인지께서나 그런 그 reality 그런 게 되네 거봐 니술 그런네 상기 뭐지 되네 되어레스 딘디 간 그런 뭐지 강송 송도서나 최탐지 얘네 상기 예버네 빠테 최탐지 얘네 상계래 그런 비송 티 송교 때 되네 그 송야 룽다 맹아당 갈와야 말린라스 티 룽다 갈와야 말이 맹아당 갈와야 마레스 룽라야 요레스 데 상기 좀 된데 까나나 요레스 네 최탐지 얘네 맹아당 갈와야 마레스 라미게 맹아 송이 내가 소야 데 뱀미게 단단 없이 시킨데 맹아가 소리 시고 여러 맹아 리고는 맨 가서 뱀미게 답 이인도 간라 디당 갈와야 마레스 룽다 맹아라 템바야 마이스 룽메나 타와람제 마임 바토 맹아 마이는 타와람제 마임 베들 말고 룽 요난다 메난다 맹아 요난다 메난다 얘네 당임 템바 예르밍 오레디오레스 오야 다 디디 하고네 니루겠다와 니시기고네 디 하고네 다 딜람틸라테네 땡아람 정원에게 메디테이션 체선한다 곰잡네 네 알아서 냠서 라와이나 대초탐지 니루 양다바테레테네 또온주다 띵 곰티야 뱀미게 땡 알아서이나 짤축 첨보 오야 대리방어죠 람데야 드바 뉴트드네 상계 고원통도 거래 다 디디 태바 오만다 현다리 개발 파술데 되네 현단 로레스
우리가 타마디 타마디
그래
타마디 당연히 가
단단한 게 알레 다디 개발 당연 대바 이름이 태바 오만 그 토마토 거는 당하면서 시행거레스
We don't have time here even to go in detail through a garland of views itself, and actually we would need to, no need to mention then the Guyogaba Tantra and its commentaries such as Dispelling Darkness in the 10 Directions, which is one of Longchen Rabjam's commentaries on it. That's more than 300 pages long. Forget about a few days. It'd take about a year of intensive study to go through that text in terms of to teach it. And there are many, many other commentaries on the Guyogaba Tantra of equal length or similar length. So we just don't have the time to do that here. Some of you told me you were studying Mipam Rinpoche's concise overview of the Guyogaba Tantra called The Luminous Essence. If so, that's fabulous. An excellent text to study. That text gives an overview of the Tantra in terms of the 11 principles of mantra, what are called the 11 principles of mantra. But the crux and the whole point of that text, as is the case with the Guyogaba Tantra itself, is establishing the inseparable truths of purity and equality. That's the main point. Establishing the inseparable truths of purity and equality. Or we could just say the inseparability of purity and equality. So this is the key point that you need to take to heart and come to understand. In terms of coming to understand it, well, what I'm trying to do here and will continue to do is to give you an overview and also to point out to you the key points of these teachings, of this approach, so to speak. And then based on those key points, you can then engage in further study on your own, in your own time. The texts like this, the Guyogaba Tantra and also this text, point out that from the perspective of the indivisibility of purity and equality, from this sort of pinnacle of views, even the vehicle of Maha Yoga and Anu Yoga, which are the higher tantras, so a very elevated approach, even they are not quite there. they're still actually slightly distorted, a little off. But we can only identify that from this pinnacle perspective, right? So that's why it's so important to come to understand the summit of perspectives, this pure inseparability of purity and equality. Like I said, how to do that is to study the Guyogaba Tantra, and I've heard that many of its commentaries, including Longchenpa's commentary, Dispelling Darkness in the 10 Directions, have been translated into English. So you can engage in further study if you wish. I'm sort of placing this in your hands, right? Hopefully those texts have been translated properly. I trust that they have been. But you can translate texts just on a literal word level, and or on according to their meaning, right? And the quality will vary accordingly. But I trust that they've been translated well. So I won't go into further details, but just to reiterate, the crux or the heart point, the key point here is the inseparability of purity and equality. And this, the kind of, how do we justify that perspective? We justify it by identifying the fact that all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature. That is their basic nature, the very fiber of their being. That is the unchanging state of all beings. Buddha nature is not something that is created or fabricated or manufactured. A good analogy for understanding this, because you might think, well, how can that be the case if like primordially our nature is awakened? Why haven't we realized it? How can our experience be in contradiction with what apparently is our basic nature? Well, good analogy for this is modern science. These days, all sorts of scientific so-called discoveries are being made, but these discoveries are not inventions, right? So for instance, a century ago, or say we didn't have cars or airplanes or the internet or live streaming, etc., etc. These are new, we can say inventions, but these have been created based on the nature of things, the nature of phenomena. Science have studied phenomena, come to understand how they work, and then in accordance with the way things work, they've been able to assemble these new things, right? It's not like they've created a new principle in reality to allow, say, airplanes to happen. So the same thing goes with Buddha nature. Buddha nature is just reality. It is the nature of things. Whether we've realized it or not, that is how things are. So we need to come to understand this point, that is our basic nature. Primordially, from beginningless time, we have been awakened, we have Sugata Garbha, and based on that knowledge and understanding, then we need to engage in practice, right? So our practice, whether it be of Mahayoga, Anuyoga, whatever level, should be informed by that understanding. And so when we talk about attaining enlightenment is simply coming to realize our basic nature, returning to our basic nature. We're not kind of praying for some new state to come into being, praying to kind of create or bring about something new. Not at all. Just bear with me while I try to find a quotation. Gurumshiki Lungren. Gurumshiki.
Ale menga senti tadi Lungren de ma kera di manden de do. Chue tam je ne sangi yemba de gurumbe che sungo yo chue tam je ne sangi res. Ti su sangi de menga tang galwa yang mare lung tam menga tang galwa yang mare es. Lung de gal de ke mare lung na la songa na sin chi nga o be nisul de lung tang menga tang galwa yang mare es. Lung tang menga la tenne sar de duba yang mare es. Ti de Quran shin Quran res.
So to paraphrase, Guru Rinpoche said, all phenomena are primordially awakened. All things are primordially Buddha. This is not in contradiction with the scriptures and the pith instructions. It is also not something that is created anew based on scriptures and instructions. These are So we just come to the end of this first session, but I first of all want to tell you a short story.
In the
sutras, there's a sutra called the Sutra of Shariputra. And there's a story there that actually illustrates boundless purity really well.
ngon shari puda tene changpara ba chen sing chi yong re changpara ba che de tene hayun chule yo changbi gi jik tin chule gyo che da de shari pu ni nyam tu res de tu tu kang la khoni sa ji ku de shu shu de kang la shari pu la res de ngan zo ge di sa che de ma ta ba to shong rong zor bo sa cha charma yo de sa sing yo de sa churu jen jing gi tu pe me gi di sang jin di gi de sing kam de number ma ta ba to tene sangje shanda shengi tene shingam zo number tabata sangje tamje gida chuku shingda longu shing turku shing tene yo number tabara na zo jikting gi di sangje gi shingde number mata bares te sambara ba chen tilla bares sambara te kyugi tene mata ba 통고 되we tene ni shindu tawangi ni gorpe 상빈 직된 다야 직바적 통고도 방만세게 다바 통고도 그 마다 보통 것도 왜다다 대그 마다 버려도 됐어 진짜 저러도 신같네도 정론도 때네 리도 타도 추도 때네 사자한테 저러도 때네 이제 상지게 신감 나시 신다 샤리 강하시 미둘라 그랬어 대딜라도 군이 써봐줘 가라 얘는 샤리보다 몽데 참바를 받지니 당하고 상기 좀 되는 티샤만 다 쉬고 말아 코스는 마다 버렸으라고 했다라고 셰리푸스는 다 맞다 버렸다 그런 아주 사자서다 동아리에 봤더니 샘징게 지 원에게 차 지기네 송게 지금 직보에 봤더니 매장와이 뭐 망고지요. 근데 신감선은 뱀미게 다과장마 뱀미 할래와 인데 같은 뒤퉁금도 스타 그랬어. 뒤tilap도 강라 상기 좀 된 되게 셰리푸라 되네 송네 되네 기랑 소쇼 뒤tilap 때 상기게 때 맞다도 벤 준출지게 온데 강 때마다도 지금 신감 탑에 나버다 왔다 루기를 무셔티나 대인들가 때마다도 되니 거랑 간다다 그니 마다가 틈제 답바 뱀미게 상지기 간서 신경이나 신지기 되네 모두 통성했어 뒤통도 간다 되네 다들 루기를 뭐다 뒤뒤셔만 된 먹고 거서 뒤로도 간다 뱀미게 내셔리보다 데 간서 상바라라지니 뱀미 가니 하드지 레슨했어 뒤 레슨도 간다 네 상지기 송했어 다 셰리푸스는 마타버스에도 몽고디 간서 상바라라치스는 다버스에도 ngani tsokpa shorta sanji ki tila da ngara jiso da timta de men chero chi su du sanji ki oya te keran tyo sanji ki junchu ki ne su te ne tam je tabat tyo shares te tabat tyo de gala de ne sanji chom den de sheri pula tires oya mulong ki su mi thong ba mulong ge nongam Nyingma ge nong re nong sen dar war ba su kyen res ben mi shara chi gi Nyingma sha ta ni ngu thong go mi thong na ting thong ma Nyingma nakting metongoti mikshara de gyönreta Nyingma ge gyönrest tinne de mikshara ge gyön ba Nyingma ge gyön mare lo yana tabaram jam tiangi ne de yene tabaram jam yene sanji ge joanga yumga yarasin yene de pongponga yene sanji ge rasin imbala ate sheripu chogi tinna singi tene punsom soba nga yarasin do matongati sheripu chogi gyönres 니게 낸데니 얘네 때문에 그러고 옹민게 내다 나신 신도 다 보고 좀 소비라신 세상에 성도 세상에 다바람 좀 해서 돈나네 나가 메시지긴 돈나네 털도 있다 여기 있나 다바람 좀 해줘요. 따디 람나 알아서 미스 이 책이 맞다. 가야지 다바람 좀 가와야 돼. 그럼 마지막도 만대와도 안테 삼그레스. 때때인도 가나 돈도 담제 다바람 좀 그냥 돼서는 돈한테 송샤야 됐어. 아 삼샤샤는 가서 되니.
So this sutra, Sutra of Shariputra, contains it's actually quite a long kind of account of something that happened. I'll just condense it. So in short, Shariputra, Buddha's disciple, met with another disciple of Buddha who was actually a god, but had descended from his god realm to see Buddha. So this disciple was called Tsalpa Rinpoche. So he and Shariputra were discussing, and Shariputra said to him, "Why is it, all other Buddhas have really pure realms, like really pure, clean, delightful realms, but our Buddha, Buddha Shakyamuni, His realm is, so impure, so dirty, so imperfect. And the God disciple said, Shariputra, what are you talking about? This is an absolutely divine, pure place. There's no impurity here. There's no impurity here whatsoever. And Shariputra couldn't swallow that, and they got into a disagreement. They couldn't figure out whose perception was correct. So they said, well, fine, let's go to Buddha and ask him who's correct. What really is the nature of this realm, this land of Buddha Shakyamuni? So they went to see Buddha Shakyamuni and told him what had happened. And Buddha simply snapped his finger. They said, Buddha, basically, please show us, tell us, what is the real nature of your realm, like your surroundings. And he snapped his finger, and with that, in Shariputra's perception as well, a completely pure, divine land, free of any impurity, any imperfection. We won't go into much description, but basically an absolutely pure, perfect realm was revealed to Shariputra's eyes. And he was blown away. He couldn't believe it, and he was so delighted. Buddha then said to Shariputra, he said, so Shariputra, tell me, if you have a blind person and they cannot see, is that the fault of the blind person or is that the fault of the sun? Tell me. And Shariputra said, oh, it is the fault of the blind person, the fault of the shortcoming of their eyes, not the shortcoming of the sun. And Buddha said, yes, so with regards to the nature of my realm and your perception of it, it's just like that. So even in the sutras, even at the level of sutras, we can find direct, explicit statements showing us that actually all phenomena are primordially, naturally pure by their very nature. So this story we find in the sutras is an illustration of boundless purity. Nevertheless, even though we have it right there, a lot of people will hear this story and still not believe it. But even if you don't believe it, it doesn't mean it's not true. That is how things are. And we'll stop, we'll pause here.
Oya, te hindu kala ngaranzo ne de yen takpare de restanda gurumbuje songjo tan sangi chomdin de nile lagaji tanganzo ja laptan yujo mare gurumbuje yen sangi ge nashin re songso te chomden de gen tanda lungden ti songso ta tarong ge tire dubje magweni ta jingane ge to pashi tensik ta tene kanga sa ngaranzo gyujik pata yingdo ta shingi la bongo sumpa second da gyunro sawa nyingma na to pashi tensik takbasum ki tensik nyabashi tensik tene dangi chimpe tensik sta tensik mangbo ji gyunse tensik sana gyunse raba gyunse mangbo songsha te tunzo tamchi de mangbo labtena de ngazo goro tuzo yo mar kena balam san kotu ge mare ta ne doto she na sangi chomden de ge takbaram jam de sontu gurum buji ge takbaram jam sontu ne suma ya takbaram jam ne de yore oya ta di tene tawa hak gu toni tene ngazo gom jap te chaba ina tene nyapa yakbu jengor ta nyapa te tangbu ni shungurun bejo song tang tene jingone ge shung ki ta tang tsul tene nyapa yakbu ji te tene ji nyapa ji ten ton tene ngara da la gum ngar de na ya tene ko pen gyur chembo tene lamga ina shortcut re dores ya ta drink te shagins ta te shagins.
So we now have direct statements from Guru Rinpoche and Buddha Shakyamuni both, telling us that all things are by nature pure right here and now. What more do we need? If you do want more, there is more to be had. In the Tantras, you can find logical reasonings such as the 4 realizations and many more. Rinpoche listed many more sets of reasonings, logical reasonings that actually establish the primordial purity of all things. I won't go through those. And Rinpoche said, of course I won't, we won't go into those. You won't be able to grasp the reasonings straight away, just in this short period of time. But there are those reasonings, so you can follow them up if you wish. But essentially, what we need to understand is that all things are primordially pure, right here, right now. This is stated and pointed out by Buddha Shakyamuni and Guru Rinpoche. We need to understand that this is how it is. We need to gain certainty and conviction in that fact. And with that, conviction, based on that conviction, then engage in practice. And if we do so, if we practice deity yoga, mantra recitation, and so on with that conviction, confidence in primordial purity, then our practice will indeed be very powerful and very, very effective. And we'll pause here. So we'll pause here and then we'll resume in an hour and a half, isn't it? And continue.
So namde tamje zibani domnenge pedanam pante jingega nashi balon chobaye tepe sobendo atro shu kando kiwi kya tamje tutori enden den tumre ke mata to chudan cheki so junde beran ye project ala matam bange jingin dan sendo chuna chodom dening bu sete sibigan tongoro sabatan be churup denje shenden de blakyangano lapshin chen den churime baye tamche chamche sange to basho de jete jekunje tuketan zaman malum kinzani la me chigin den ra konar da son gerora sho tembe la me shapeten tenzinke usa den yona kitten bijin tamadan den ba yuring ne we trashi sho premier lunga ju zoba shinge den yingo shinda den jumne kangeso ne bshedan tübe de girşik hangi doje tek betten balın şodum da se de ge kebro çamarından koyun şetu tembe sason kun ka sho 대들 두번 고원조 숨기된 바다 상계되는 주선 바탕 속에 신경 송영수 영가당 친구 주기 있는 바다 상계 개베 데베트 제대로 바대 대신다 결지 만다로 송나와 주고 고당의 시로를 섭송 남줄 준비념량 예르메 특기